This is exactly the kind of weekend that the defending champs better hope doesn't haunt them in September.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I have been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and I'm now in my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm on Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. If you listen to this every single day, please hit that hashtag every day Sully, so we get an idea who's listening to us every single day. Like us on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. Love YouTube, be YouTube. And here's a reminder that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Oh, and by the way, if you are a fan of the show, and I know I am, and you can't get enough of me, please subscribe here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and also subscribe to Locked On A's. Locked On A's is the other show that I am hosting this year because why not? Because, and some of you know that the A's are having a very interesting and emotional year. They're actually playing a lot better than people thought they were going to be playing. You wouldn't know it from this weekend because they've actually had kind of a lousy week, but there are worse teams in baseball. And this team has no payroll. They don't have a huge throng of people following them every game. The fans who show up there are great. But this has been an interesting year. And it's obviously their last year in Oakland. They're going to be in Sacramento next year. And quite frankly, I think they'll be in Sacramento for the next 30 years. I'll believe Vegas when I see it. I am seeing zero evidence that there will be a Major League Baseball team called the Athletics in Las Vegas. Let's go. First of all, answer the trivia question. The trivia question was, who was the last Pittsburgh Pirate to lead the league in stolen bases? And that was Tony Womack. Tony Womack actually led the league in back-to-back years, but one year was with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the year was the Arizona Diamondbacks. I will say a statement about Tony Womack. I believe Tony Womack could arguably be the most underrated postseason hero of the 21st century. Now, first of all, Tony Womack got a base hit to be a walk-off hit and a series-ending hit in a truly dramatic series, a series between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the St. Louis Cardinals, the division series in 2001. Could have gone either way. It was a fabulous series, and he got the base hit up the middle that scored the winning run and eliminated a very good St. Louis Cardinal team, and it was a heart-stopping series. That alone should give him some street cred as a playoff hero. But do you know what? He had one of, if not the most underappreciated hits in the history of baseball. And that's not hyperbole. The Yankees in the early 2000s, the late 90s, were invincible. And one of the reasons why they were invincible was Mariano Rivera. Rivera could not, ever since he let up the home run to Sandy Alomar Jr. in the 97 playoffs, he could not be touched. He didn't blow a single save in the 98 postseason, the 99 postseason, the 2000 postseason. He won the World Series MVP in 1999 and looked like he was going to win the World Series MVP in 2001, the 9/11 World Series. Because remember, the Diamondbacks out-hit the Yankees. They out-pitched the Yankees. The Yankees' offensive numbers were down, down, down. But the one thing the Yankees had was the closer in Rivera, while the Diamondbacks had Byung-Hyun Kim, who blew back-to-back saves, and by the end looked like just looked shell-shocked. And they had Rivera on the mound, and even though an error was made and a hit was hit, there was no way anyone was going to touch Rivera. It was an inevitability. Now, everybody gives the credit to Luis Gonzalez because Luis Gonzalez got the base hit that scored the World Series winning run, Jay Bell. But what people almost always seem to forget is that it was Tony Womack's double that tied the game. Tony Womack hit a ball that suddenly broke reality. It was like the Matrix when Keanu Reeves sort of flew back and the bullets flying over him. It's like, what am I even looking at? Mariano blew a Game 7 of the World Series. It didn't seem possible. I don't mean in terms of the odds were against it. I'm talking metaphysically didn't seem possible. I was in a bar in New York City when that happened. My date and I were both huge Yankee haters, and we were with my friends Susie and Ed, who are huge Yankee fans, and I was probably being a bit of a prick. But it didn't occur to me that Rivera could blow a save, and he did. And after the save was blown, it was tied. There was a sense of borderline inevitability. At least something we knew something bad was going to happen. So much that McCarver famously predicted the floater over Jeter's head. But it was Womack's hit that sent the universe aflutter, and it all went back to Gonzalez. So Tony Womack deserves that love. Anyway, let's just talk about a little bit of the events of the weekend, because there was one giant event that's really worth bringing up, and I don't mean the Giants. I mean former Giant manager Bruce Bochy watched the World Series champion Texas Rangers get swept by one of the worst teams in baseball. The Rangers, 22-20, got swept by the Rockies, 12-28. And because of that, because of the clean sweep by the Rockies, one of the worst teams in all of baseball, that allowed the Seattle Mariners to leapfrog the Rangers. And right now, the Mariners' magic number to clinch the American League West has been reduced to 121. Now, of course, it's absurd to bring that up at this point, but right now, the Mariners have taken over first place, and we could, in earnest, start looking at the standings in a couple of weeks once we get past Memorial Day. But not only did the Rangers lose these games, it's bad enough that they lost the games. It's bad enough if you're a Texas fan to say, "Oh my God, we went to, after topping the A's at home the way that they did, and after taking control of first place, off they went to the Coors Field, and suddenly the Rangers' bats went dead in the easiest place to get a hit in the world. They lost the Sunday game 3-1. They arrived at Coors Field after being able to score, except for the first game where they needed the Corey Seager home run. They just were able to score at will against Oakland, and they scored at will against Kansas City. And then they played in Coors Field, which is basically playing in zero gravity. And in 27 innings, they got 3 extra base hits total in the entire series, in the easiest offensive ballpark in all of baseball. Now, I know it's something that, it's something I've been, yelling and screaming about all year long. And that is, you can't lose dumb games. And if you want to win, you have to clobber the teams that you're better than. That's what Cleveland did, how they got off the mat and started playing well. And that's what Minnesota did when they got to a horrible start. And then all of a sudden they went on that wild winning streak because they beat the snot out of bad teams. And well, who cares? It's just they were just beating the White Sox and the Angels. Well, the freaking Rockies went to Coors Field, and look what's happened here. Now, the most important person in all of this is Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy's a steady hand. Bruce Bochy is a Hall of Fame manager. Bruce Bochy has led teams to 4 World Series titles and 5 pennants, and none of those teams were LA or New York teams. Okay? He's been there, he's done that. But here's something that has to be a little concerning if you're a Ranger fan. For the last few years, there has been a scrum in the American League West. Last year, it was banana boats between the Rangers, the Astros, and the Seattle Mariners. And if the West turns into another rodeo like it did last year, and this will probably be between, at least it looks like right now, Seattle and Texas, because the Astros look bad, the Angels are bad, and the A's are playing a little bit over their head, but they're still have a losing record. And man, look at, I love following this A's team this year, but let's face it, the carriage is going to turn into a pumpkin in any minute. It may already have. But if this turns into a shootout between the Mariners and the Rangers, and a game here or a game, if it's down to just a couple of games, then everyone's going to emphasize the games at the end of the year. But how many people remember that the Rockies swept the champs? Now, yes, Argenis Richard says this is a professional sports league. Any team is a chance against anyone. You're as good as your last game played. Yes, I agree. But if you're the defending champs, you can't get swept by the Colorado Rockies. This is going to be a tight race. This is going to be tighter than disco pants. And at some point, the American League West is going to be airtight. And when that happens, and there's going to be no wiggle room, people may forget this awful weekend, but I won't. Policygenius. You may have noticed I hit the wrong button there. Policygenius is the nation's leading online marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you could find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Life can be unpredictable, and Policygenius can take away some of the worries of what your family would do if something happened. Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, as you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers found the best fit for their needs with Policygenius. Check life insurance off your list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Let's hit the right button this time. Hey, where are you getting your sports news? Where is your hub? Let me tell you, the place you should check out is Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed to bring you the biggest stories of all sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. There's a lot of good pitching performances over the weekend. You saw Max Fried throw 7 no-hit innings, and they went to the bullpen. They got to within the Braves had a combined no-hitter going to with 2 outs and nobody on in the bottom of the 9th. And then JD Martinez hit a home run that broke up the no-hitter. But that was that. That was all of the I think the Mets did get one more hit, but in the end that was that. And you saw on Sunday, Yu Darvish faced off against his former team, the Dodgers, and the Padres blanked them 4-0. In fact, Yu Darvish was one of those who owned baseball, along with Bailey Ober, another terrific pitching performance, who held the Blue Jays to 1 hit, no walks over 6 1/3 shutout innings. We get to the Jays in the second. Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners, the first place Mariners, mind you, he got on base 3 times, including a 2-run shot, and the Mariners doubled up the A's 8-4. And Patrick Wisdom of the Cubs aren't going away anytime soon. He got on base 4 times, including a home run. The Cubs topped Pittsburgh 5-4. Half walks went to Mackenzie Gore, who pitched well against Boston but lost. Alek Manoah, remember him? He's back with the Toronto Blue Jays, and he did not allow an earned run over 7 innings, but they're the Blue Jays, so that means they lost 5-1. Connor Joe, what do you know? He doubled and homered and walked. Dun, dun, doubled and homered and walked. Dun, dun. It was very musical sounding, but the Pirates came up short against the Cubs 5-4, and Willie Calhoun went 3 for 4, and the Angels lost to Kansas City 4-2. We'll talk about the Royals a little bit later, too. The other big pitching performance, he didn't get the win. In fact, they caught up with him in the 5th inning. But Paul Skenes, his first appearance, the first 4 innings were spectacular. Then he pitched into the 5th and let up a few hits and let up a home run. But he did strike out 7 in 4 innings. He kept hitting 100 miles an hour, and he looked the part. He looked terrific. I mean, as terrific as you can over the first 4 innings. I maintain if you're going to keep him to 3 or 4 innings in appearance, have it those be every 5 days he pitches the final 3 or 4 innings of the game. Why not? That may help the Pirates, knowing you have 3 or 4 innings of this guy to finish up the game, help your bullpen, help all that other stuff, and you won't be blowing them out of the water. Either way, the Pirates, they won a couple of games. They lost today against the Cubs, but it's tough when you've seen Henry Davis hurt and you see Brian Hayes hurt and a couple other key injuries to their team. It's Pirates have to dust themselves off if they want to make any big time progress. 2 teams have to take good long looks in the mirror right now. As of this recording, the only teams in the American League that are currently worse than the Blue Jays and the Astros are the White Sox and the Angels. Now, the Angels have lost Ohtani to free agency and Trout to injury, and there's nobody else there, so they stink. And the White Sox are looking at what the A's did and saying, well, if we're really awful, then maybe we can move to Nashville. So they're not really trying. Meanwhile, the Astros got to Game 7 of the ALCS in a year where they were trying to defend a World Series title and back-to-back trips to the World Series. And the Blue Jays are regular performers in the postseason. And they both stink this year. They stink with a capital stink. Now, granted, in today's game, Justin Verlander turned back the clock against his former team, the Tigers, and the Astros did manage to win, but they don't look good. They don't look good right now. They look a mess right now. And they're about to play the A's. Now, the A's are a weird team. They hit a lot of homers, and every once in a while their pitching's great. This weekend, their pitching wasn't so great. We'll watch Locked On A's for my thoughts there. But if the Astros don't want to stink this year, then they have to start turning it around more consistently. They've had a couple of times where things are good, but then most of the time, they're 10 games under 500. And that's tough to make up all of that, especially if the Rangers and the Mariners are going to be good. Because the Orioles are going to be good. And the Yankees are going to be good. And it looks like Cleveland's going to be good. And certainly looks like Minnesota's going to be good. And Tampa has been stumbling a little bit. They're a game under 500, but they're a talented squad. Kansas City is playing wonderful baseball right now. And oddly, the Red Sox have a winning record. Why am I listing all those teams? Because eventually, I don't care how much you expand the playoffs, you're going to have 6 teams. I just rattled off 7. And you're going to have a good number of them collapse in order for the Jays or the Astros to do something. Now, I've been screaming for the last couple of years that the Jays need to make a change in their managerial position. I thought they should have after they lost that series to Seattle. I mean, Schneider was only a interim manager at that point, but there's no excuse for keeping things along right now because I've been seeing some of the articles about, potential trade chips, and so many of them are from Toronto. That's right. They could be blowing the team up. This should be a regular playoff contender. And they're talking about, are they going to start trading away their pieces? And Houston, well, dynasties can end rather abruptly. And the Astros, cheating or not, have had a dynasty. Or at least as close as we're going to get one in this era of an expanded postseason. And if this is it, please let me know, as Huey Lewis said to us, because they have to turn things around really fast. There's not a lot of spots out there. There's a big, crowded middle part of the American League. And yes, a lot of those teams I rambled off could wind up falling apart. But they may not. I remember in 2012 when the Nationals got in first place, and there was a sense of any minute now they're going to falter and the Phillies are going to win the division like they're supposed to. And it didn't happen. So don't think if you're the Astros or the Blue Jays, you can just turn it on, because there's a lot of teams right now who are playing well, and a lot of them look like they're there to stay. And we're going to talk about one of them. And the one of them who's having the type of year that should make the Astros and the Blue Jays nervous, because it's the type of season that could take them right to the postseason.
PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You can pick more than or less than on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entry, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your picks on more than or less than, and then add them to your PrizePicks entry today. Get in the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. PrizePicks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit them in less than 60 seconds. Download the app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Yes, download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Hey, where do you get your sports news? It's time to make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, the first ever 24-hour streaming sports channel on YouTube. It's now available on the Free Fires TV app on your Amazon TV. Check out all the latest opinions and takes from local experts from Locked On, plus the national shows. Locked On Sports Today. It's on your YouTube 24/7. Check it out. Have that be your new go-to spot. Hey, what's your go-to spot for checking out the latest in sports, opinions?
Oh, wow. Sometimes you hit the wrong buttons one too many times. That's what we're doing it as a live spot here. Hey, who was the best free agent pickup this year? It was probably Shohei Ohtani. Sure, I'll grant you that. But who would have had Seth Lugo? Who would have had Seth Lugo as the go-to acquisition in this past offseason? Seth Lugo, who was let go by the San Diego Padres, and the Padres have done okay, even though they've lost, they lost Lugo and they lost the defending Cy Young Award winner in, God. Why am I losing my freaking mind? Why can't I freaking remember Blake Snell's name? I know why, because he's not been pitching this year. But right now, who leads the league in victories? For those of you who like victories, who leads the league in ERA? For those of you who like ERA, who leads the league in innings pitched? For those of you who like innings pitched, or batters faced, if you like that. And on Sunday, it's Seth Lugo. Sunday, he became, as according to MLB.com, the fourth Royals pitcher to strike out 12 batters with 0 walks in the entire history of the Royals. And it's a 2-year, $30 million contract that looks like the best deal that was signed all year long. And with that, if you take a look at the standings right now, the Royals wound up beating the Angels. That's what you're supposed to do. The Royals are better than the Angels. And right now, the Royals are half a game out of first place. They had 1 game in the loss column behind the Guardians. They're currently virtually tied with the Minnesota Twins. And they have a Cy Young contender right now. We're about the 1/4 way through the season, and we are certainly near the 1/3 marker. And I think Seth Lugo right now is the American League Cy Young Award winner at this point. Cole Reagans, who they stole in the from Texas in the Aroldis Chapman deal, is pitching well. Brady Singer's pitching well. Michael Walker has not been pitching well, but sometimes it helps to have a veteran in there. And speaking of veterans, Salvador Perez apparently went swimming in the swimming pool from the movie Cocoon. Look it up, kids. It's a great film. And he is back to his all-star form and his MVP form behind the plate. And they have themselves a legitimate MVP candidate in Bobby Witt Jr. And also, you have a couple of the people who are playing okay. Vinny Pasquantino has been filling in well. He had a big game against the Angels on Thursday night. Came up with a big double the other night, and seemed to be getting some, driving in runs when they need him in the Milwaukee series and the Angels series. And this is a winnable division. And suddenly the Kansas City Royals are showing the virtues of going for it. That they saw there was a division that was available, that was winnable. And so why sit it out? Why sit out and wide open American League Central? Now, are they better than Cleveland? The fact that Cleveland can hit and inevitably their pitching will turn around makes me think, okay, they might be the favorite. The fact that Minnesota was so good last year, and they've been good for the last, they've had some down years, but when they're good, they're very good. But you take a look at Kansas City, and you're thinking, wow, they might be able to pull something off if they can pitch and hit. And I think it's a phenomenal story for one reason, for many reasons. But the whole knock on baseball over the last, generations or so has been the big money teams always win it and the small market teams don't have a chance, which is actually not true. You've seen that small market teams are able to win, just maybe not year in and year out, but you see a tremendous turnover in the types of champions we see in the teams that get in. However, that's the perception. But think about this for a second. You're hearing this show, it's May, I'm recording on May 12th here in California. Chances are you're hearing on May 13th. Fine. If Kansas City wins 31 games over half of May, June, July, August, September. So over the next 4.5 months, if the Royals can win 31 games, they will match last year's win total. I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say they're going to be able to do that. But here's the thing that's terrific. They're contending this year. Last year, they were 56 and 106. And there is a chance that a team that lost 106 games last year could be a legitimate playoff contender this year. That should be a huge story. Market that. Kansas City, the team that sounds like small market, no hope. They've won a championship more recently than a New York team, just ask the Mets. But Kansas City could say, hey, you think it's hopeless. You go 106. You take a 106 loss team, and then the next year they could be contending, and it's not as rare as you think. Last year, who won the World Series? The Rangers, who won 90 games last year. In 2 years prior, they were a 102 loss team. The year before, they were a 94 loss team. And then they won the World Series. Scream this from the highest mountain, that you can have a small market team that was a 100 loss team that can turn it around. And boy, oh boy, if this is not an indictment to the Angels and some of these other teams that can't get it together, the Royals can. They drafted well, they signed the right players, and boom. Now, they haven't won piddly-poo yet, but we are going to be approaching the first real benchmark of the season, and the Royals are well in on it. All right. And our Janice Richard says, I love to see the Rays win a championship before moving to their new ballpark. Oh, don't get me started on the new ballpark, because it looks like the Rays have learned nothing, but that's another episode. So let's go over what the trivia question is, and that is, last year, the Rangers won the World Series. What was their longest winning streak and longest losing streak in their World Series championship year? Write it down here on YouTube and follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I am your pal Sully at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Going over the weekend and wondering if the Rangers will regret what was a lousy weekend. Bochy will get them together. We will see. This has been Locked On MLB. I'll see if I hit the right button here. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.